The Loomis Method. It's a process that artists use to create accurate proportions in their portrait drawings. You can use it to draw from imagination or references because all you need to do is start by drawing some basic shapes and guidelines, then fill in the features. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a portrait of a turned head with the Loomis method so you can follow along with the steps. And throughout the video, I'll show you how to customize the portraits to make them look like your reference, teach you about the proportional relationships of the face, this is the important bit, and then how to shade the drawing to achieve a realistic look. With the Loomis method, you can start from scratch with a blank piece of paper without any grids and create a realistic portrait no matter what angle the head is facing. First, I want to share a bit of background about the Loomis method because if you understand how and why this method was created, it will help you to use it yourself. The drawing method was created by Andrew Loomis, who was a successful illustrator who wrote the book Drawing the Head and Hands in 1956. The method outlined in this book is the one that people have continued to use to this day to construct portraits with knowledge of proportional relationships, starting with basic geometric shapes, basically seeing the head as a ball that is flat on either side. The premise is that broadly every person's head adheres to certain proportional principles. For instance, the face can be divided into 3 equal parts from the hairline to the brow to the nose to the chin. The eyes are about halfway down the face is around 5 eye widths wide, and the corners of the mouth line up with the middle of the eyes. There are lots more proportional relationships in the face and figure, but those are some of the most important. The Loomis method also helps us to create symmetry in the face, as we'll be drawing both sides of the face at once, and sometimes it can feel difficult replicating the shapes of different features consistently when they mirror each other. The first shape that we draw when we're creating a head using the Loomis method is a circle. The circle represents the cranial mass of the head. From here, you can map out where the other features will go in relation to this, using an oval to represent the side plane of the face, dividing lines of thirds, and a dividing line to represent the middle of the face. As you can see, no matter which way the head is turned, these proportional relationships apply. Now, we all know that no one's face is perfectly symmetrical and everyone's face is different. This is why we can use the Loomis method as a base and customize it to apply personal characteristics to the particular portrait you're drawing. But broadly speaking, no matter how a person's face looks, it will adhere to these proportional relationships. Like, noses can be wide, slim, large or small, but the base of the nose proportionally will line up with the earlobe. Eyes can be further apart, closer together, have different angle tilts, but they're pretty much always halfway down the head. So in this video, I'm going to focus on specifically drawing the turned head using the Loomis method. I'm going to make separate videos for tutorials on how to draw the head from the front perspective and from the side, so make sure to subscribe if you want to learn to draw the face from different perspectives. To start with, we're going to draw a circle. This is going to represent the cranium or skull of our head. Make sure to place your circle in the centre of your paper where you want the main part of the head to go and make it large enough to fill the space. For more accuracy, you could use a compass or other tool to get a perfect circle, or you can just sketch it out roughly like what I'm doing. Then draw a line that divides the circle in half. This represents the brow line. Depending on the position of the face you're drawing, this line might be tilted slightly. Next, we'll add in a vertical line that will mark the tilt or turn of the head. This line runs perpendicular to the horizontal line we drew and represents the halfway point between the front of the face and the back of the head. These intersecting lines determine the angle and direction of your portrait's face. The next step is to sketch an oval which represents the side plane of the face. We're going to sketch an oval on the left side of our circle. This oval will be tilted and follow the angle of the vertical guideline we just drew. The oval should be around 2/3 of the size of the initial circle in height, and depending on the extent to which the head is turned, it will be wider or stretch further across the sphere. The face of my portrait is only slightly turned, so the viewer will only see part of the side of the head, so the oval will appear smaller. The top of this oval represents the top third of the head or the hairline, and the bottom third represents the nose line. You can also see that where I've drawn this oval, I now have quadrants on the side of the face. The bottom left-hand quadrant marks where the ear will go. You can use this as a helpful guide later on. Next, we'll add in dividing lines to represent thirds on our head. These lines help us to further map out where features will go. Mark dividing horizontal lines at the top of the inner oval and at the bottom, which represent the hairline and the nose line. Then take the measurement between the centre line and the nose line and draw a horizontal line below the nose line of that same measurement. This is the chin line. So from the hair to the brow is a third, the brow to the nose is a third, and the nose to the chin is a third. If a person has a longer face, each third will be relatively longer, and someone with a short face, each third will be shorter, but the proportions will stay consistent relative to one another. The next dividing line we draw will be the vertical centre line that divides the 2 sides of the face. This line will help you to symmetrically place features. The next line we're going to draw is the cheek. So start by drawing a smooth curved line from the side of the brow downward to indicate the outline. This curve should follow a natural flow, tapering gradually as you approach the base of the jaw. Next, mark the width of the chin. The jawbone connects to this dividing line on the side of the face, then joins at an angle to the chin. Cheek and jaw shapes vary from person to person, so make sure to observe your reference to get an accurate representation. In this portrait, the woman I'm drawing has quite high cheekbones and a sharp jaw, so that's the shape that I've drawn here. We're starting to visualise our head in 3 dimensions, and to construct an accurate brow and eye area, we first need to establish the shape of the brow bone and eye sockets. This area of the face can be simplified by drawing an inverted triangle shape. Running parallel to the brow line, just beneath this is the eye line, which I'm drawing as the apex of this prism shape to represent the eye socket. In terms of proportions, the eye line should be halfway down the head, from the top of the cranium. This line is useful as it will help you to place the eyes symmetrically and at the same level on each side of the face. This eye socket shape adjoins to the cheekbone, so I'm going to refine the cheekbone shape on the right hand side, then draw a rhythm line to mark the plane of the face on the left hand side of the drawing. This shows the angle of the cheekbone and plane change from the cheek to the jaw and the chin. Using this information of the eye sockets, middle of the face and position of the side of the face, we can draw the eyeball shapes. The eye on each side should be roughly halfway between the middle and side of the face, and there should be an eyeball's width between these 2 spheres. Because of the perspective of the viewer, the angle of the face and the foreshortening, the measurements on either side will look different. Now I can draw the shape of the eyelids wrapping around the eyeballs. The eyelid curves around the sphere shape on the top, then appears relatively flattened on the bottom lid. Remember, the lids have a bit of thickness to them. At this stage, you can also indicate the direction that the irises are pointing. To draw the nose, I'm going to first show you how to draw it as a geometric shape. This will help you to understand the underlying anatomy, size and perspective of the nose shape. Let's first mark the centre of the nose with a line that intersects the centre of the face. Draw a line inwards to mark the angle of the brow. The top of the nose should roughly be in line with the top of the eyelids. Then draw the angle of the plane of the nose and where it changes at the tip to create a triangular shape. Next we'll find the width of the nose shape, so I'm drawing an upside down trapezoid shape to represent the glabella, which is where the forehead meets the nose. Then another skewed trapezoid for the tip of the nose. The skewed angle of the shape is consistent with the perspective of the face. Connect these lines to create a 3-dimensional shape that is wider at the base and narrower at the tip. From this, you can outline the nose shape. You can see the side of the bridge and tip of the nose. The right-hand nostril from the viewer's perspective appears small due to the foreshortening of the face. Draw the left-hand nostril larger, along with the ala of the nose, which is a piece of skin that surrounds the nostril. Follow the lines of the guides you made and lightly sketch the contour outlines. I've established the brow line and I've drawn guides for the shape of the glabella, which is a trapezium shape where the brow meets the nose, so I can confidently draw the brow arc. The brows curve slightly and taper at the outer edge. Try and look at the reference points on the Loomis guides to determine the placement, angles and lengths of the lines. So my reference point from the start of each eyebrow is that it roughly lines up with the inner corner of each eye, then follows the brow line but arches upwards just after the midpoint of each eye. The mouth line sits halfway between the nose and the chin, so I sketch a horizontal line that indicates where it will be placed. The mouth width will be in line with the middle of the eye, so you can find the corners of the mouth by finding where the middle of each eye is and lining them up with this. The lips of the person I'm drawing are parted slightly, so I'm leaving some space between each lip. Imagine the mouth in 3D space. It wraps around the tooth shape, so it will look a little curved. The upper lip protrudes above the lower lip, with the cupid's bow creating 2 small triangle shapes at the top. The further side of the lip corner will look foreshortened, so on the right hand side of the drawing, the lip will look shorter than the left. Draw the lower lip as a more simple curve, accounting for the 2 tubercles either side of the bottom lip, which will create the look of outward projections. With the bottom lip, it will be a case of joining up the dots, but make sure you get the angle of the curve right and the point at which this takes place, which is just after the centre line of the face. The ear sits in the bottom left-hand quadrant of this oval we drew to represent the side plane of the face. It's a C shape that has a small angle where it joins to the top of the head. You can also create a slimmer section to the curve of the ear for the earlobe. The hair sits along the hairline, so I'm going to sketch the volume at the top of the head. You can customise the hair to look however you want. In this portrait, this person has long hair tucked behind her ear on one side with a side parting. Now, all the features of the face are broadly outlined. I can go and refine some of the lines to improve the line quality and erase the guides. By the way, I teach the drawing fundamentals in my course, which you can find on the Fine Art Tutorials website. It's a comprehensive course with 54 lessons that will perfect your portrait drawing skills and help you to draw realistically from observation. When I'm happy with how the lines appear, making sure they look neat, I can move on to the shading process. The first stage of the shading process that I find really helps to establish the placement of the shadow areas is to outline the shadow shapes. You need to know the direction of the light source or sources and whether the light appears dark or diffused. You could even draw some light arrow lines of where the light source is coming from what you can describe on your reference. Or if you're drawing from imagination, drawing some light arrow lines to guide the placement of light and shadows can help to maintain consistency. The light source in this drawing will be shining down from the top of her head. Then there is another light source positioned in front of her face but pointing downwards. The light is fairly soft and diffused, so there won't be many hard edges in the shadow shapes. I'm drawing a form shadow shape on the side of the face under the cheekbones, then a cast shadow under the bottom lip. There will also be shadows beneath the brow and nose areas. I start shading by lightly filling in the shapes with an even tone, using the side of the pencil lead to shade quickly and evenly. The next step is to establish the darker areas of the drawing, so I work on increasing the contrast by applying more pressure in the sections that are blocking the light. Gradually increase the contrast and build layers of shadow, and keep the edges between the shadow and light relatively soft at this stage, so as not to create harsh lines that are difficult to erase. The darkest areas of my drawing are the parted mouth between the lips, the eyelid crease, eyebrows, parts of the hair, nostrils, and the side of the neck. These darkest areas are quite isolated, and the majority of tones in the face are light midtones. I lightly shade the whole face and neck, again with the side of my pencil, to create a base tone, then continue to increase the contrast in the darker areas around the eyes, iris, pupil, and lash line. Then I start sketching in the midtones once the darkest areas have been established. There are darker midtones in the hair, around the nose, and on the side of the face, so I work on these first. To smooth the shadows and make the light appear diffused, you can use the blending technique with a tool like a tortillon. This will soften the edges on the shadows, reduce the appearance of texture, and create seamless gradations. The shading process is one of iterating and refining. Now that I've blended some of the tones, I want to go in and further increase the contrast in the darker areas and use my eraser to pick out highlights from the midtones. Now I've adjusted the shading on the face, I'm going to start to shade the hair. The key to shading hair is not to focus on the details of the individual strands, but instead to think of how the hair flows and grows in clumps. You can see in this portrait that there are tapered clumps of hair that reflect the light at the broadest part of the shape, then block the light at the ends. Once you identify patterns like this, it will become easier to shade in sections and to selectively increase the contrast in certain areas and lift highlights on targeted sections, instead of focusing on spending all your time trying to draw every strand. Again, I'm using the side of the pencil to build up shadows quickly, then I'll go in with my tortillon to smooth the values and create a blended appearance. There are some dark shadows on the neck where the face is casting a shadow and blocking the light. I'm using my softest pencil now to adjust and increase the contrast to create the darkest areas, using the tortillon to create soft edges on the shadows, and using the kneaded eraser to lift highlights. The shading can take some time, but it's fun once you get into the flow of it. And there we go, a portrait drawn with the Loomis method. If you like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more drawing process videos. I've created a Drawing Fundamentals course, which is a progressive course of 54 lessons that focuses on teaching students how to draw realistic portraits. So if you want to further refine your techniques with structured lessons and have access to our art community, then be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.